Welcome, I'm Tatiana Darzi. Two of Canada's biggest telecommunications companies, Bell Canada and Telus Mobility, have excluded Huawei from their 5G network partners. Bell Canada and Telus Mobility decisions were made due to Huawei's intelligence gathering activities in countries around the world. Huawei, a Chinese company which has close ties with the C.C.P., has posed too big of a threat to Canada.
On June 2nd, Bell Canada and Telus Mobility respectively announced their 5G network partners, which means Huawei is excluded. Today, none of Canada's top 3 telecommunication giants have adopted Huawei's 5G equipment. Bell Canada announced that it has selected Ericsson 5G radio access network technology to support its nationwide 5G network. Telus Mobility selected Ericsson and Nokia as its 5G network partners. Bell Canada, Telus Mobility, and Rogers Communications are the top 3 telecommunication giants in Canada. Rogers Communications had already chosen Ericsson in 2018. This means that the Canadian telecommunication giants did not take Huawei technology under consideration. Since Huawei entered Canada in 2008, its equipment has been widely used in Canadian networks such as Bell and Telus, but many countries have indicated that Huawei has close ties with the Chinese Communist Party. Under the Chinese laws, which are written by the C.C.P., Chinese companies must cooperate with the government in gathering foreign intelligence. Recently, Huawei's alleged intelligence gathering activities in many countries around the world have also been heavily exposed. Despite the high cost of giving up Huawei's equipment, in the end, Bell and Telus made the decision to cut ties with Huawei. Following the blacklisting of Huawei last year, the U.S. Department of Commerce introduced a new rule in May to restrict any company from selling U.S. technology and software products to Huawei, especially microchip sets and design-related products such as semiconductors. Huawei has admitted that this new rule has a tremendous impact on the company, and Chairman in Office of Huawei, Kuo Ping, expressed on May 18th that survival is our key now. Canada is the only country in the Five Eyes Alliance that has not made a decision to ban Huawei and its 5G networks construction. The United States, Australia, and New Zealand have already banned Huawei in their 5G networks, and Britain has also decided to expel Huawei from its market within 3 years.
I don't believe the Canadian government should open up the 5G network to Huawei because there's risk of spying and there's risk of cyber attacks as well. We're part of the Five Eyes, which is a sharing of intelligence between Canada, the United States, Great Britain, Australia, and New Zealand. If we opened it up to Huawei, and they would be more reluctant to share important intelligence with us under those circumstances.
The C.C.P. regime is exploiting the unrest triggered by the death of George Floyd to attack the United States and divert attention away from its own human rights violation. Many Chinese netizens have expressed their struggle to the C.C.P.'s ironic remarks with the slogan, "I can't breathe," that they can't breathe any better under the C.C.P.'s ironclad fist.
George Floyd, an African-American from Minnesota, died shortly after a police officer kneeled on his neck for several minutes. His last words, "I can't breathe," are now being echoed around the world as people protest against his death. They are also being repeated by Chinese Communist Party (CCP) officials as they mock a lack of human rights in the United States. However, many Chinese netizens have expressed that they can't breathe any better either under the CCP's iron-fisted rule. On May 25th, George Floyd died of police brutality in Minnesota. The spokesperson of China's foreign ministry, Hua Chunying, mocked the United States by posting "I can't breathe" on her Twitter, and at the same time expressing her disapproval of U.S. spokesperson of the Department of State, Morgan Ortega's support of Hong Kong's protesters. Chinese netizens were quick to criticize Hua, with one saying, "When Xu Chunhe, who appeared in Heilongjiang, was beaten to death by the police, Hua Chunying breathed well. When 3 Chinese businessmen were murdered in Zambia, Hua could still breathe. When the people of Wuhan died from the virus because of the cover-up done by the C.C.P., she could still breathe with no problems. Now that the Americans are rioting and looting in protest, she started to pretend that she can't breathe." A lot of Chinese people have expressed to NTD that they are being severely oppressed and persecuted by the CCP in their daily lives to a point where they can no longer breathe.
I can't breathe at all. I'm living in terror every single day. A few days ago, more than 30 people watched me all day for more than 20 days. I really can't breathe. I have friends around me who can't breathe either, and many of them don't even have food and shelter.
Mr. Jiang from Wuhan City shared the same sentiment.
We can't breathe. We can't even say anything. And if we do, the police come and find us. The family of those who died of the Wuhan pneumonia cannot even speak out. They wanted to hold the government accountable, but we're not allowed to hold up signs or go out of their houses. So can the Wuhan people breathe? Right now, people in Wuhan have no food to eat. Why isn't there anyone stepping in to help?
Ms. Wei from Chongqing expressed that she is not the only person being oppressed by the CCP. Many people who have been petitioning for 20 or 30 years suffer even more immense pain. They are not allowed to post any videos, and if they do, they will be punished.
You see, so many people cannot breathe. The CCP only promotes the good, not their bad deeds. They do not allow us to post anything that is not good for them. Just take the incident that happened in Wuhan. So many people have died. Why did they not report anything?
In a video that is circulating online, a female host of CCTV, the CCP's mouthpiece, slammed the so-called racism and the U.S. government for the death of Floyd and claimed that U.S. officials should apologize to the American people. However, what is ironic is that netizens have edited the video and added a live recording of CCP police and city officials beating up civilians. Many netizens criticized the CCP and asked if it only looks outward, not inward.
In China, people die of beating every single day. The deaths of a few people means nothing in China. No one reports when people die from being beaten up. But it is a big deal when it happens in the US. It gets reported over and over.
Netizens criticized the state media for repeating many reports on Floyd's death. Hua Chunying posted, "I can't breathe" on Twitter, but nobody said anything about the deaths of 3 Chinese people in Africa, they said. It was reported once and over, and Hua Chunying did not come out and say, "I can't breathe." 3 Chinese people died. Wasn't she supposed to be suffocating? Netizens also posted pictures highlighting the June 4th Tiananmen Square massacre and of the 2019 Hong Kong protests in response to Hua, asking, "Can the Chinese people breathe? Can the Hong Kong people breathe?" Chinese citizen Hu Jianguo said that the intent of the CCP's reporting on Floyd is to convince the Chinese people that there are no human rights in the United States. But he said that the biased reporting shows that the CCP actually feels nothing for the many Chinese people who have died.
All news reports in China are fake. You see, tens of millions of people died from natural disasters in the past 3 years, and so many students died from machine guns, shooting, and being run over by tanks on June 4th, 1989. Does the CCP dare to report the real images? No, it does not.
Hu said the Americans have the right to go on the streets and make their voices heard, and also have the right to collect evidence on the scene, but the Chinese people do not. Human rights activist and lawyer in China, Teng Biao, indicated in a post on Twitter that the difference is the result of 2 different political systems in 2 countries. In China, the police are used to suppress the people, but in the United States, the police support the rational demands of the people, he said. Hu Jianguo suggested that the U.S. should tear down the CCP's firewall and let the Chinese people know the truth and breathe freely. That way, the tyranny of the Chinese Communist Party will ultimately end, he said.
The Japanese international strategist Hidetoshi Ishii said that bloodshed will likely continue to happen in Hong Kong before the CCP's imposed national security law is implemented. He is worried that more serious conflicts will take place and Hong Kong people will fight to the death. He calls for more attention to Hong Kong, that we can't turn a blind eye to them and action must be taken.
On May 28th, China's National People's Congress unilaterally approved a proposal to impose new national security legislation for Hong Kong. Japanese international strategist Hidetoshi Ishii, vice president of the Free Indo-Pacific Union, said that bloodshed will likely continue to happen in Hong Kong before the law is implemented in August. He calls on joint forces to avoid deterioration of the situation. Ishii has been committed to various human rights activities in Hong Kong, Tibet, Xinjiang, and for issues such as freedom of belief and illegal organ transplantation for 25 years.
If the national security law is put into effect in August, freedom of speech will be completely suppressed, and one country, two systems will end. The only time they can reject it is now, before the law is implemented.
Vice President Ishii said that things are likely to continue to escalate.
From June to July 1st, I'm worried that there may be serious conflicts. This is the last righteous place of China. The Hong Kong people will definitely fight against the CCP to death, and we can't just sit back and ignore them.
Various groups organized protests and called on people to pay attention to the evil nature of the CCP.
The CCP not just killed people in Tiananmen Square 30 years ago. It persecutes the Chinese and destroys human rights till now. The CCP is a common enemy of mankind, so everyone must join forces.
Japanese civil and parliamentary organizations started petitions to support Hong Kong, and many members of Congress signed to show their support.
This is a hard fight.
The next target of the CCP after Hong Kong will be Taiwan. Hong Kong, keep it up.
Vice President Ishii also said that if Xi Jinping visits Japan, he will continue to cooperate with all walks of life to protest and do all he can to awaken the world.
Canada's Deputy Prime Minister Chrystia Freeland stated that Canadian citizens living in Hong Kong are welcome to return home to Canada. She made the remarks following the British Prime Minister's announcement to open the door to 3 million Hong Kong citizens to the country.
Following the British Prime Minister's announcement to open the country's doors to 3 million Hong Kong citizens, Canada's Deputy Prime Minister also expressed that 300,000 Canadian citizens living in Hong Kong are welcome to come home. On June 3rd, Canadian Deputy Prime Minister Chrystia Freeland said at the press conference, "There are roughly 300,000 Canadians currently living in Hong Kong. All of those people are Canadian, and of course, dear Canadians living in Hong Kong, you are very, very welcome to come home anytime." Chrystia Freeland also mentioned, Canada continues to be a country that welcomes immigrants and asylum seekers from around the world. Canadian Minister of Immigration, Refugee and Citizenship, Marco Mendicino, also expressed that Canadians in Hong Kong are welcome to come home.
Hong Kong is a cosmopolitan city, and Hong Kong is linked to the interests of all major countries in the world. The CCP's current push of the national security law has put itself on the opposite side of the world, which is why the international landscape is rapidly evolving.
On the same day, British Prime Minister Boris Johnson condemned the CCP's push for the Hong Kong national security law, which severely undermined Hong Kong's political and civil liberties.
What is happening now is potentially going to be an infringement of the Sino-UK, Sino-British Agreement of 1987. It protects political and civic freedoms in Hong Kong. That looks as though it could be very, very badly eroded by what is being proposed. And so what we're saying is that we want to hold out our hand, a hand of friendship.
These all show that the UK, Canada, and a number of other countries around the world are now siding with the US to strike back strongly against China. So the development in this international landscape will be more and more clear in the future. One of their most important driving forces is the CCP's rash moves, the CCP's global ambitions. The CCP is now very irrational, and its policies are contradictory.
British Prime Minister Boris Johnson also published an article in The Times, saying that if China insists on implementing the Hong Kong national security law, the UK will revise its immigration policy to provide a route to citizenship for 350,000 British national overseas passport holders and 2.5 million Hong Kong residents who are eligible to apply for British passports.
What Britain is doing at the moment, opening its doors to the 3 million people in Hong Kong, is just the beginning, as we will see further down the line that the UK and the US will take some more substantial measures. This change in the UK's decision-making is very meaningful, and its impact on the international society is huge.
On the same day, the UK's Foreign Secretary Dominic Raab said in an interview with Sky News that the UK's reason for relaxing its immigration policy is because Britain won't turn its back on the people of Hong Kong. He stressed that Britain is willing to sacrifice trade deals with China in order to fulfill its obligations to Hong Kong's people on principal matters involving morality and its international stature.
Of course, the UK has intricate ties with Hong Kong, so it should be said that its feelings towards Hong Kong have historical roots. This matter, on one hand, reflected both their shared values, and on the other hand, reflected Hong Kong residents' high civil status, both from the economy and from their protests against the extradition bill over the past year. Hong Kong residents have shown very good manners, and the manners they have shown has been seen and admired by the world.
Former reporter of the C.C.P's People's Liberation Army Daily, Jiang Lin, expressed that while some Hong Kong people might emigrate, others have expressed their desire to fight against the C.C.P's totalitarian regime till the end.
For example, Apple Daily's founder Jimmy Lai said that he is resolute, that he would never leave, that he would remain in Hong Kong and stand with the Hong Kong people to fight a resolute fight against the CCP's totalitarian regime. There are some people like that, and they are also quite admirable.
Jiang Lin also criticized that the CCP's push for the Hong Kong national security law undermined the one country, two systems policy in Hong Kong.
The legislative process of this law itself has violated the Hong Kong's basic law. It was decided by the central government alone and not by the people of Hong Kong, which has undermined Hong Kong's one country, two systems principle and Hong Kong's principle of a high degree of autonomy. If the CCP, is bent on going down this route, the opposition from Hong Kong people will not be resolved at all. It will only get worse.
UK's Foreign Secretary Dominic Raab expressed that the UK is currently in discussion with members of the Five Eyes Alliance, including the US and Australia. The UK will negotiate further countermeasures with its allies if the CCP insists on promulgating the Hong Kong national security law.
A new CCP virus outbreak might have taken place before China's Two Sessions political meeting. No news regarding the outbreak was reported. However, all public transportation was suspended and classes were once again canceled. Many communities in Mudanjiang city were locked down due to the new outbreak of the CCP virus in that region.
After a new wave of coronavirus cases in Mudanjiang city, located in Heilongjiang province, on May 27th, local authorities ordered the suspension of all trains and outbound buses. Previously on April 7th, local high schools reopened for senior students, but were later closed on April 20th. It was more dramatic during the recent outbreak of the CCP virus. Graduating classes returned to school again on the morning of May 25th, but were told to go home in the afternoon. Local residents believe that the new outbreak occurred before China's Two Sessions political meeting that took place from May 21st to the 28th. But local authorities covered it up because they didn't want to report any negative news beforehand.
I heard that many communities in Mudanjiang are sealed because of the recent outbreak of the epidemic.
I don't know the exact number, but indeed, many communities are locked down.
Has public transportation also been suspended?
Trains and buses have been suspended.
Then it is equivalent to citywide lockdown.
Anyway, trains and buses have stopped operating. We cannot get out. Others cannot get in.
How about local companies? Are they shut down or still operating?
We are still going to work. Some service industries, such as restaurants, may have been closed. I believe most people still go to work, but schools have closed.
Schools were closed on May 27th.
Right.
Does it have any impact on your daily life?
Of course, a great deal of impact.
Are grocery stores open? Is it easy to go grocery shopping?
Certainly not as convenient as before.
Are you restricted from entering or leaving your community? I guess you must scan your health barcode.
Yes, we have to scan it.
I am Xiongbing from NTD TV. I would like to know if Mudanjiang is under lockdown due to a rebound of the virus.
Yes, the city is under lockdown again and some communities are sealed.
Have companies and schools stopped operating?
Companies are still operating.
Do you know why there was a new outbreak?
The authorities suddenly reported several new cases. We, the local residents, believe that these new cases emerged before the two sessions meeting, but these officials covered them up due to concerns for the two sessions.
Are stores and restaurants mostly open?
Restaurants were closed again yesterday after they were allowed to open for 3 days. No one goes out to dine. A chef who is my neighbor upstairs just lost his job. His restaurant went bankrupt, so did many restaurants. The recent epidemic control measures are very, very strict, so I think that there must be a lot more people infected than the several cases they reported. We don't expect these government officials to tell the truth at all.
Many locals may have lost jobs because they have been hit by the epidemic for too long. Is there any government financial aid program?
No financial aid at all. Take myself, for example. I have been borrowing money through an online lending service since late January. Altogether, I have borrowed over 9,000 yuan, $1,260 USD. There is no government relief program at all. My son and I don't have any job to do. We cannot find any job opportunities.
The interview was conducted on May 28th by Xiong Bing of NTD TV.
The Chinese Communist Party's cover-up led to a pandemic that now threatens the lives of people around the globe. With over 7 million people infected, China is still defensive about independent international inquiry into the origin and spread of the C.C.P. virus. The Epoch Times has initiated a global Sign the Petition campaign calling for investigating, condemning, and rejecting the C.C.P. We believe that investigating and exposing the truth is the only way that we can remain safe. Let's take action. Sign the petition at rejectccp.com. That's all for today. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and share this program with friends and family to keep them informed about the latest news and updates. Thank you for joining me. See you next time.